Item Number: SCP-1737. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Once SCP-1737's position has stabilized to a specific location for greater than 3 minutes per GPS tracker, the closest available MTF will be dispatched to the site in order to take it into custody. Although SCP-1737 demanifests upon the completion of any sporting event it attends, the apprehension allows the Foundation to prevent the remainder of SCP-1737's anomalous activities. In the event that Foundation personnel are unable to arrive at SCP-1737's location prior to the onset of anomalous activities, they are to administer Class C amnestics to all witnesses, acquire the resultant products from the location at which they were deposited, and disseminate a cover story that affected individual died en route to medical care. Description: SCP-1737 is a male humanoid of indeterminate ethnicity. SCP-1737 appears at amateur sporting events as a replacement for a referee for the game, wherein the missing referee is unexpectedly ill, injured, or otherwise detained or prevented from arriving at the sporting venue. SCP-1737's appearance varies slightly between manifestations, but is generally slightly taller than the average height of the local population, has dark-colored hair and eyes, and is always continually chewing an unknown substance without replenishing it. SCP-1737 invariably knows all the rules of the game it is refereeing, including detailed minutiae and local variations on standard rules. At some point during the game that is refereeing, at least 2 players will simultaneously suffer potentially life-threatening injuries, requiring immediate emergency medical treatment. Regardless of whether or not any attendees have contacted local emergency services, an ambulance will arrive at the sporting venue within 4 minutes of the time of injury. Exactly 2 of the injured players will be loaded into the ambulance by SCP-1737, who will accompany them in the ambulance. Any additional injured individuals will be informed that the ambulance is full and to wait for the next one to arrive. Audio-visual surveillance equipment placed in the ambulance during this time suffers from data corruption or hardware failure consistent with extreme electromagnetic flux, although GPS location trackers are unaffected. The reason for this exemption is unknown, but has been exploited to place GPS trackers within SCP-1737's personal effects. The ambulance will arrive to the nearest hospital or trauma center and, upon arrival, SCP-1737 will offload a single stretcher bearing an individual appearing to be an amalgamation of the 2 players originally loaded into the ambulance. This entails the repair of any injuries suffered by either player with flesh from the other, and includes such extremities as partial or total organ transplants, bone grafts, blood transfusions, and brain tissue transplants. The resulting creature typically expires within 2 weeks due to systemic shock and organ rejection. In addition to the hybrid creature, SCP-1737 will offload a plastic bin, similar to those used for organ transfers, labeled Rejected Tissue. This bin will contain all portions of each original player, which were not used to produce the amalgamation, and show signs of tearing, burns, and blunt force trauma. Analysis of the tissue reveals chimeric intermingling of cells, as well as massive numbers of bacteria, responsible for necrotizing fasciitis. An exception to this is that the amount of cartilage present accounts for only approximately a third of the amount of excess cartilage that should be expected, and the samples retrieved uniformly display ripping damage. After transferring the hybridized creature to medical personnel, SCP-1737 will state that it must return to the game in order to continue refereeing and attempt to leave the premises by any means necessary. If allowed to leave, it will return to the sporting event by non-anomalous means and attempt to continue officiating, and will disappear between camera frames upon the conclusion of the game. If forcibly restrained when returning to the sporting venue. It will self-terminate, using any method available, including deliberately swallowing, and choking on the substance it chews, or holding its breath until it asphyxiates. Once SCP-1737 is deceased, its remains will dissolve into a slurry of undifferentiated human cellular tissue. DNA analysis of this tissue matches that of the most recently amalgamated individuals in approximately 37% of all cases. Future manifestations of SCP-1737 retain copies of whatever objects were in its possession during its last demanifestation, including duplicates of Foundation-issue tracking devices. Although the original objects are not affected by SCP-1737, these copies will also degenerate in the event that the current manifestation does.